is JP Raw, show number 216. What is today? July 24th. We missed a few weeks because I've been traveling, and now we're just getting back into the swing of things. So
yes,
lots of news have happened since I've been gone, Tim. Some of it has happened right before I left, too. But lots of news. And I want to talk, toward the end of the show, talk a little bit about what I was doing, the trip I was taking, some of the camera stuff I brought with me, some of my thoughts and stuff. And I will caveat it again, but I'll caveat it now, that I'm not a professional traveler. I'm not a professional photographer. I'm not a professional. As I say, anything I'm going to talk about tonight, I am not a professional about. Excel, accounting, that kind of stuff, that's where I'm a professional. So it's just going to be my observations and my thoughts on that. And I'll show you a few pictures of what I did.
Beautiful.
Plus, don't give this away because I know you already know the answer, but I got to meet somebody on my trip. Crazy meetup of who I met and where they're from and where I met them. But before we get into that, Tim, so let me do this. We always hold this to the end, but I want to bring this up now, and I will show this in just a second here. There we go. Let's look at where you can subscribe to this podcast. Of course, you can get us on. If you're watching us live on Facebook, if you're watching us live on YouTube, you can get it there. You can subscribe to us there. But you can also go over to subscribe, get the recorded version. That's odd. All my icons are messed up. Well, you can still read the words. Hopefully the links work. Must have been some kind of update that broke everything. You can get the audio version from iTunes, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and TuneIn. And the video version, and in most of the cases, a video large and video small, and iTunes at least, video large, video small. You can get the video also from YouTube, Vimeo, and you can get both the audio and video from Podbean, which is now caught up. So they're totally caught up with us, so they don't have to wait multiple weeks to get, to hear us when we're talking about a show. So we welcome those Podbean viewers, which continues to grow. So that's how you get the show, the recorded version of the show. All right, Tim, why don't we start with this Loupedeck thing that you talk about? You want to talk about that?
Sure. I think I've talked about Loupedeck previously. It's an editing keyboard for Lightroom specifically, or at least the original version Loupedeck was. They just released about, I guess, 3 weeks ago, Loupedeck Plus, which it looks like they've taken a lot of the criticism or comments that people had made to make it a little bit more robust, mechanical keys, and it's even going to work with additional software. Now, I did the smart thing finally, and I actually bought it. So wow. I have it right here.
It looks super cool.
It really is, and I've used it twice so far. There's definitely a learning curve with it. I downloaded a couple of the reviews on it so that I could research how to use it correctly. But at this point, it seems like a really good tool for using it with it. But at the same time now, not only is it with Lightroom, it's also going to work with Skylum, as well as I think they're going to be getting it so that it's going to work with Capture One. I know it was in beta. It might be there now, but so you're going to have it where it's going to be working with other products, not just Lightroom. Now, granted, I think when you look at the keyboard, a lot of it looks like it's definitely Lightroom focused, and you could see the keyboard there you have on the screen.
I see contrast, clarity, shadows, highlights. So you just vibrant, saturation.
Exactly. So it's got sliders on there, which are actually little wheels with a little clicking into it so that you feel what you're making the moves on there. So far, I really like that. Even worked it out for like cropping out pictures with the dial on there. It helped straighten out my pictures, crop it to the size I wanted. And I'm sure I'm just scratching the surface. I only got it about a week ago. And I haven't, I think when I get back from Disney in a couple of weeks, I'm really going to wind up using it a lot. And hopefully I can give another better review of what I think of it. It's not cheap. I think I paid $220 for it from B&H. I wound up shipping up to my in-laws in Connecticut, so I didn't have to pay tax on it. Of course, I'll add it to my taxes at the end of the year.
We won't talk about that. Yeah, of course you will. Of course you will. There you
go. But right now it seems to, and I almost bought the original one a year ago. I actually had it on my my wish list, but I couldn't get any of my family members to spring for the $200 at the time for it. But now I said, you know what? It seems, based on the reviews I read on it, it seems to be very positive. And they took what people really complained about, like maybe it was a little mushy feel on the control dials. It was not a mechanical feel to it, and they just made the updates to it to make it to the point where it's a lot better for people to use. So, and definitely the reviews are singling that out.
So we're actually looking at, we had a link and I clicked on it, and this is what popped up, a Pinterest page. There's two, it looks like there's two different versions here. The top one being Loupedeck, and the bottom being Loupedeck. The top one is the original.
Okay. Plus. So Loupedeck Plus is the new version, which is the bottom one.
Yeah, I can see the look of the keys look like they're probably more, have a little more feel to them. All right, so I can see the things that say whites and blacks and all that kind of stuff. Then there's these these things here. Are these sliders?
No, they're actually little wheels.
Little wheels.
You can maybe even hear. You can actually hear it. Yeah. So that you can get the feel. Before that, it was just a smooth, like you think about your mouse where it had just the smooth flowing of the wheel without any clicking to it. Right. So now it kind of gives you, if you go forward a couple of clicks on it, you know how far you've went on it.
Okay, so above that, what are they controlling though? What are they doing? Are they programmable?
Yeah, the whole board is programmable as well. So, and I think a lot of it has been, and I like I said, I only got it last week. Yeah. I got the directions right over here to really go through it. I printed them off at work today, and I think the next time when I get back from Disney, I think I'll give a better review of it.
Well, it looks really cool. Now, what made you decide you wanted something like that versus just using the keyboard and mouse?
I like my toys.
Okay. No, I definitely understand that. It would be interesting once you had some time to work with it, maybe after you do the Disney photos, to see if you feel that, hey, I think it
is a time saver. Yeah. I really want to know that.
That's I'm really more efficient with it. I like editing with it better. Doesn't it? Sometimes it's not just about efficiency. It's about what you like editing with.
Yes,
because I know lots of people who use I'm going to say it wrong.
The Wacom tablets. And I used it a couple times here and there. When I really liked that was when I was doing a mask.
Yeah.
That, because trying to use a mouse with a mask is near impossible. But other than that, that was another one of my technology toys that is probably sitting in the closet next to me.
I have tried to use it multiple times. I bought the thing, so I tried to force myself to like it. And like you, I liked it. I wanted to like it. I wanted to use it more. But I just felt, at least at my skill level with it, that I was less efficient and I could just move through with the mouse and keyboard faster. So it'll be interesting after you... Whoa, didn't need to hit that button.
Well, I think it's probably good, like if you're using Photoshop. I don't know if it in Lightroom that I was getting the benefit out of it.
That's true. So it'll be interesting with this, whether you end up liking it better or not. Feel like it was worth it. I'm going to hold off and wait until you say it is a life changer. It's a game changer. I can't live without it. And you have to get one, Mike.
And then I'll sell you mine.
But I'm looking at, I have something here that I use for the show, and then I ended up buying the I don't know if you can see it here, but it's a Elgato Stream Deck. Not nearly as fancy as yours. It's more like a launcher. You have little programmable buttons.
Oh yeah. You got the little Lightroom, Photoshop, Audacity, I guess. What's PR?
Premiere Pro.
Premiere Pro.
Yeah. So you can program those and get the little icons, and then you can have, if you had scripts or something set up, you can, when you press Lightroom, for instance, when I press Lightroom, it takes me to another screen there with, where I can have buttons just specific to Lightroom. To be honest, I have not spent a lot of time setting it up, and I know somebody like AD says that has made what he does a lot more efficient, but he's probably spent a lot more time setting it up. And so I just got it because they had the Amazon Prime Day, and it was on sale for like $50-$60 off. So Drew out in Facebook chat says the before after button looks handy. And I saw that too. I thought that before after button would be really cool to hit that and go after. Because what you may find is, you have that there, and it's maybe just while you still may use the mouse or keyboard, as part of that, or maybe you just use the mouse and that, and then it's more of an aid than a fully functioning tool all by itself.
Yeah, I'm going to leave myself open to it either way, and I'm going to watch a couple of YouTube videos because I'm sure they're out there on how people use it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, Lord knows I've learned a lot from that just working in my basement in the bathroom.
Yep. All right. The next one. I don't know if you saw this, Tim. Where is that court ruling? So there was, we've talked a lot about copyright infringement,
right,
over the past, and I don't have the image. None of these articles have put the image, maybe because the whole thing is about a stolen image, but I didn't want to have it there. But I wish I could show the image. I just couldn't find it. There was a court case in Virginia. This happened back in June, so it's a little old now. But there is a little bit of recent news where a guy took a photo.
Oh yes, I did see this.
Yeah, this defendant who is, where is their name? Violent Hues Productions. Violent being a color, I think is not the mean people. They used the photo. And I think the photographer contacted him. When they got contacted, they took down the photo. The photographer then sent them a bill. They didn't want to pay it, didn't respond, went to court, and the judge actually ruled it was fair use. Now, hey, Jordan's out there in Facebook chat. The court ruled it was fair use, which could be, and still could be, it's still the rule. It hasn't been overturned yet. Could be, make it more difficult for photographers to defend their copyrights. In this case, the defendant said that they did make some slight modifications to the image. But they said that they didn't see a copyright on it. They didn't know it was copyright protected, so they thought it was fair use to use, and they're claiming fair use. And the judge actually sided with them and said that it was fair use. And of course, the defendant was saying, hold on a second, it's copyrighted just by the fact that I took it. You don't have to, you didn't take it, so it's not yours. But he lost, and they're going to go. I think the recent thing I heard was they
filed an appeal.
Filed an appeal, and are going to go after that.
And based on some of the rulings that were written in the article, previous rulings, this judge just totally missed the point on it. So I have to imagine on appeal from the higher court, this is going to get overturned, and probably be remanded back to court. Well,
the judge says that the use of the photograph was transformative in nature, in function and purpose. And I think that's what the fair use is. Like 4 rules for fair use. One is, I'm not going to remember all 4 of them, but one is like, does it affect the marketability of that image? Is how much of that image you're using. So for instance, if you made heavy modifications to it and just used a small part of it, or the resulting image is dramatically different than the original, then I don't remember the other 2, but there's 4 rules for what is fair use. I know if we had Rachel Brinke on, I know she would know.
And she's probably yelling right now.
Yes, if she watched this, she's going to know I get it all wrong. So don't use me as the guide for what is fair use. But from what everybody's saying is this judge misapplied the fair use clause. So they've appealed. We'll see if it gets overturned.
The 4 factors judges consider are the purpose and character of your use, the nature of the copyright work, the amount and substantiability of the portion taken, and the effect on the use upon the potential market. That sounds like a lot of legalese.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, keep an eye on this one.
I thought it was a horrible ruling. When I first read that, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Because, I mean, that's almost saying that any picture you take is not yours anymore, is what that judge was saying.
Right. Anybody can claim fair use. I think this was even a commercial use of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was commercial use. That was the worst part about it.
Yeah, not commercial use in the sense that they were selling the image, but they were advertising whatever they were doing.
Right.
Yeah, so it was used in that case. And while they did take it down after they were notified, they've already used it. So the case was
placed it on the website to illustrate things to do in Washington, D.C. area.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that everybody's been paid for. And you take the picture and you use it, you should be paying for it.
So Drew says the timing of the copyright comes into place. So I think what you're talking about, Drew, is the timing of the registration of the image, because it's copyrighted as soon as you take it. You own the copyright of the image as soon as you take it. And that's one set of damages. Now, if you register it, then that is a whole different level of damages. And that, in this case, I can't imagine he had registered it before it was published. Otherwise, this should have been a slam dunk case, and he would have got much higher damages. Or he would have got damages. He can get any damages right now. But my understanding is that it is copyrighted by you the moment you take it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason when the company looked, and whenever Vinyl Hughes looked and didn't see that it was copyrighted, it's copyrighted by the fact that someone took it.
Right.
They might have said, I didn't know if it was registered, and I don't know how that's a defense. I'm going to use copyrighted material as long as it's not registered. But I'm not saying they did that because I don't see that here. But the case was Brammer versus Vinyl Hughes, and like you said, and like I mentioned, it is now up for appeal, so hopefully this will get overturned.
I have to imagine it will. Smarter minds have to be out there.
Yeah, and Drew says a good argument for more watermarking. Yeah, I mean, it may make more people watermark that. That's why some people do, because it's the same thing. There's so many people fearful of their images getting used by somebody like this, and they don't put the watermark on there. And then, even sometimes, Drew, when you put the watermark on there, if you put it in a corner where it doesn't obscure your image that much, they may just blur it out or crop it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Crop it out is generally what they wind up doing.
Yeah. Or, people who are talented like AD may be able to don't even have to crop it out. They can have other ways to get it out. Anyway, that's that. So did you want to talk about this cheap filter thing?
Yeah, that was an interesting article.
Let's talk about that, and also just filters in general. But go ahead.
Okay. The article talks about not using cheap filters on expensive lenses. And I think it goes to everything that you always talk about. While the camera may not make the photograph, everything between the camera and what's out there is going to impact it. And this photographer had rented an A7 Mark III camera and had on it, I believe it was a 100-400 lens, a pretty expensive lens to top it off, and went to an auto race. And his friend said to him, well, make sure you put a filter on there. So he had some filters. I think he said they were Vivitar series, and he put them on there. And he didn't realize it as he took the pictures. And he talks about later on that he took over 2,000 pictures that wound up being worthless. After he wound up looking at the pictures later on, he realized that they weren't clear. And it's hard. You really think about it, and you're looking on that little screen on the back of your camera, which is mine. I think mine's 2.5 inches. Maybe they go up to 3 inches depending on the camera. You can't really tell. But when he looked at them, he realized the pictures were not sharp. And he couldn't realize what it was until he took off. He said the only difference from what he did the day before was he added the filter. So he took the filter off and took the pictures again, and suddenly all the pictures were crystal clear. And I guess really you think about it is there are differences in lenses, lens filters that are out there. You can buy a filter, and this was a polarizing filter that he was using. You could spend $50. You could spend $200. Now, obviously, it's also on the size of the element in front of your camera. I think he had a 77 millimeter.
I was using a polarizer.
I guess the bright sun. He was trying to. He doesn't say why he was using it. He did use. Well, a friend of his recommended that he use a polarizer. I guess is really what it came down to.
I wonder if there were some glares there that he was trying to get rid of or something. I don't know, but yeah, go ahead.
So he wound up taking it off. Now, some people then question him. Well, you can't compare the pictures because the timing was different. The f-stop was different. Your shutter speeds were different. And he begged to differ with him. He said, all right, maybe it wasn't a scientific method what he did, but he disagrees at his user error. And I doubt that he changed the way he took pictures from the time where he had the filter on there to when he had the filter off of there. So he decided to do it a little bit more scientific, as you could see here. And he did the pictures in a scientific manner. I believe he was using a tripod, took it exactly the same, and the pictures tell you exactly that there's definitely a difference between the picture with a filter and without, or with a good filter and with a cheap filter. Now, what kind of filters do you use?
So I don't know if I would use the polarizer in this scenario.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have either.
And my understanding of Vivitar is not the best of filters. So that right there was probably going to hurt you by using a Vivitar. It's just junk. But the timing of you finding this is good, because I used to use UV filters all the time. You're not really filtering out UV. My understanding is that film cameras needed to do that more. Digital cameras really don't need to do that maybe not at all. But I was really using it as what I thought was lens protection.
Lens protection. Yeah, I agree. I think I probably have one on my camera.
And you hear a lot of people talk about that, lens protection. And nothing we're going to say here tonight is going to, if you're in one camp or the other, we're not going to change your mind.
Right. We're not changing your mind.
I will say that what has sort of changed my mind, because I have from day one always put those lens filters on there, because I thought that, hey, I got this expensive glass. I'll say a Nikon 7200. That's $2,500 worth of glass. Right. And if I got to put a good filter in front of it, UV filter in front of it, that may even cost me $100. I'd rather lose that $100 than the $2,500.
Right. You correct that. You could take it off and replace it again.
Right. So one of the guys I watch on YouTube that I'd love to get on the show sometime, Steve Perry from Backcountry Photography or Backcountry Photos, whatever. I need to find a link of his. But Steve Perry has a YouTube channel. Go out there and check that. He has also a great blog where he does more on the blog than does on the YouTube channel. And he was trying to answer the same question. And he will admit that, look, what I'm doing, if you're going to be nitpicky and really super scientific, he probably did some stuff wrong. But I think for someone like me, I don't need you to do everything super scientific. Just tell me what you're doing. Let me see what you're doing, and I can make my own decisions. So what he did is he bought a bunch of super cheap glass, super cheap, or used. I wasn't necessarily super cheap. Used filters, because he was going to do a lot of busting them up. So he wasn't going to take necessarily photos with these, but he put these filters in front of it, and we wanted to see how much pressure does it take to break one of these filters. So he set up a little slide that was going to fall down and hit the glass, and see what did it take to break the filter. So he figured that out. It didn't take that much at all to break these filters. Then he took some glass and said, "What's it going to take to break the glass?" And took quite a bit. All right.
So that's why he bought he bought lenses.
Yeah, he's busting all these
because
up.
he knew he was breaking them up.
Yeah,
okay.
He's busting all these up. So he would set the glass down, and then he had built like a PVC thing that when you let go of it, it would fall, and it had a little thing that would hit it.
It would stay within the tube.
Yeah, and he could do it at different height to give it more power, and he can actually add weight to it to give it. So if it didn't break, he can do a little bit higher, or he can add more weight, so he can change that. So he found that the glass took a pretty good beating before it broke. So then he said, all right, let me find out if I know it takes this much pressure or pound, however you do that, let's call it pounds of force, to break the glass without a filter. Let me add the filter and see if that stops it. And in most of the cases, it didn't. It broke the glass anyway. It broke the filter, then broke the glass. So,
whoa! It broke the glass. All right.
So let's say I'm going to make stuff up. Let's say it took 5 pounds of force to break the lens without a filter. You put the filter on, it still broke the lens and the filter. Right. There, I think he might have had a case or two where it did stop it from that. So then he said, all right, so the filter didn't really help that much. Let me drop. I'm going to do a drop. So he put the filter on. He did this with and without the filter, and he would drop the glass and the lens. He would drop it onto the ground. He did it at various heights. And while sometimes the filter broke and the lens didn't, sometimes they both broke. What was also happening is that other damage was happening to the camera, like the zoom ring, the zoom or the focus ring would not turn anymore, some stuff like that. Or sometimes the internal glass broke. Mm-hmm. So from all his testing, what he had come back and found was that it really is not adding that much at all. And the other thing to think about is, so let's say, well, you know what? I don't want to scratch the front of my lens. Okay, that may be a good argument. That let's say you're at sandy beach, there's sand going everywhere, and you don't want that sand bumping up against the front of your glass element. That may be a use case where you put something in front of it. You do want to put some good stuff in there, that super multi-coated, probably not Vivitar, something a little better quality, and do that. Or sometimes I've also liked to put it on there because let's say I smudge it, I feel a lot more comfortable with taking my shirt and
that's what I was going to say. Yeah. It's easier to clean the lens, a filter, than it is rubbing up against your lens. Mm-hmm. I don't feel as guilty.
I normally do bring lens cleaners with me.
Yes.
But I've also been in a situation where I forgot one or didn't have it, and I've used my shirt, but I used it on the filter. So I think the end result there was, if you're using it for protection of, like, if you dropped it, it's probably not going to give you much protection at all. If you're worried, if you're in an environment where you're going to get scratches because of sand or something like that blowing, you might get it there. If you're worried about, like, let's say you're walking through the woods, you might bang it against something, probably what's going to give you more protection is the lens hood. Because now you've embedded it in there, and that lens hood, heck, even maybe from a drop, the lens hood maybe give you more protection from all that. So I've actually, and as your article shows, there is some degradation of the image. Even with a high quality one, you're going to see some. So he got some high quality ones and put them on his. Was it the 400 millimeter? It was a good lens. He put it on a good lens. And what he had found was in the center, it wasn't too bad. Even with these good quality filters, in the center of the image, it wasn't too bad. As you went to the corners, though, it started having some trouble. Because even those good ones are going to have some trouble. And if you're not careful and you're doing it with a wide angle, you can also introduce some vignetting.
Well, I still have it on my lenses, and I'm not going to take it off because I know how much I paid for it. Yeah.
So, don't feel guilty if you don't have them on. But
the funny thing is, I don't think on my 7200, I don't think I have a filter on it.
That's the one. I took that one off. I took it off. I think I took it off of my Sigma 120 to 300, my biggest, my longest lens.
I have it on my 1650, the 2.8, but I don't have it on my 7200. For some reason, I never even bought one for it.
Yeah. So I'm not using them. And Jan's out there, and so before Jan asks, I am recording, Jan. So I'd be interested to hear. You can email us at podcast@jpegtheraw.com whether you use our filter on your lenses. And I'm not talking about like a polarizer where there's a use polarizer or a ND filter. Those where you're using the filter for the photo to achieve some kind of photographic look or something. These are for do you use any filters for protection? You're trying to use it to protect your lens. Like a UV filter really doesn't do much other than maybe provide some protection.
Well, I have to think a lot of these filters. I think about when I had my film camera, and I think a lot of people don't remember this, but I probably owned 20 different filters, whether it be a star filter or a fluorescent filter, because you couldn't take pictures in fluorescent lights with a regular film camera without it looking absolutely horrible, to what was an 81B or is it 81A for taking picture in fall foliage. And I had just so many different filters. And now, I mean, with just Lightroom or Photoshop, you don't need that anymore.
Well, I think there's still a use case for filters. Maybe not as much. You're right. Not as much.
Neutral density, I think neutral density is one that I could definitely think of. That's probably still a big one. But what other filters?
Polarizer. So like, there are use cases for a polarizer.
An ND polarizer, but you wouldn't use a fluorescent filter anymore. No. You wouldn't use an 81B filter.
You may use an infrared filter too.
Infrared, well, yeah.
So I'm not anti-filter,
but I haven't used one. When was the last time you had to screw one on there?
Well, since I've converted one of my cameras over to full-time IR, I don't have to do that anymore. Although I'm not using that much. It's actually right behind me back here. But before that, when I would go shoot IR, I'd have to take it with me. I really want to get some ND filters, some graduated ND filters.
Yeah, I would like to get them too.
I've had them right there in my chart, in my what do you call it, the cart on Amazon. Some nice ones, not the ones you screw on though. These are the ones that kind of slide in, and I just have not done it yet. But someday I'm gonna get that some of those filters.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, also before we head to the next story, Tim, I forwarded you an email. I don't have the details here, but somebody wrote in. Do you remember the guy's name?
John Bounce Busey,
Yeah.
I think it was.
He wrote in, and I saw it was to you, and it was about your Legos.
See, the funny thing is, I don't remember talking about Legos on the podcast. I guess really? I must have. And
sure you did.
But I must have at some point because I talk about Lego all the time.
You even had an article about a photographer who was using Legos in his ad.
Maybe that's where it came up. Maybe that's when I talked about it. So yes, I do have to respond to him. There's plenty of us Lego people out there. We don't hide. I know I don't. So my wife would like if I hid, but that's another story.
So John, a response from Tim is coming.
Yes, absolutely.
I did have to forward to Tim.
The past week with work and everything. So,
all right. So, I don't. Do we have any other news stories we're going over? There was some changes to Adobe, but you have something about powerful new features. I looked at the article. I was wondering what features came in Adobe.
Yeah, I read it and I was like, yeah.
I looked at the Lightroom.
Actually, the only one I cared about was the features that were being added to Classic because I don't use Adobe Lightroom CC at all.
I don't either. I just use Classic, and nothing really big there. I know that Luminar has digital asset management coming. I don't know of a date, but it's coming soon. For me, for instance, when I got back from Alaska and I had all those photos, I want to bring them all up in the program all at once, keyword them, tag them all, everything I'm going to do, and then edit them like that. And right now, Luminar, you got to do one at a time, as far as I know. Mm-hmm. So I want something like that. So for right now, I'm sticking with Lightroom, and I like Lightroom.
So do I for now, because I'm used to using it. I think that's, if I was to start all new, and I know I was listening to, they talked about it on Leo Laporte's podcast. He talks about, because he uses Lightroom, and he talks about how slow it is. And you know what? They've sped it up, and it still seems slow. No matter what I do, I can't get it. I wish it would be faster.
I do think that it's gotten, for me, my use case where I was going through images and I would get through whatever number of them, and then it'd start getting slower. Remember me talking about that? It would get slower as I worked in it. I'd have to close out and come back, and it would be back to normal speed. Mm-hmm. That issue's gone. I don't have that problem anymore. And I got a fast system. All SSDs, lots of RAM, fast multi-core CPU. So for me, it's you're right. It's not super fast. When I've worked in Luminar is faster, but I'm more used to at least working in Lightroom. Now I did get Aurora, which is from Skylum.
Yep, I have both.
I bought that, and I've edited a few in there, and wow, there are a lot of options there. It's almost overkill, but they do have a lot of presets, so you can get started pretty fast and do some stuff there. But I need to play more with that. I'm liking it. And I may make my switch from editing of HDR images to that versus Photomatics. Mm-hmm. So you need to watch a few more of AD's. He needs to do a few more training sessions on that, on Aurora. All right, so now let's talk about the big news, Tim.
Okay.
The news, I don't know if you heard this, Sony has waved the white flag and has decided they're no longer going to be in the camera business.
What?
Nikon is coming out with a mirrorless camera, and Sony just said, game over, we're done.
Oh, yeah, no.
Had you for a minute.
I just read an article yesterday. Sony came out with a 48 megapixel sensor for a phone, and they showed how powerful the sensor is. It's like, my God, there's no way Sony's stepping out.
No, there's no way. Well, that was all a joke.
But the articles I saw on Nikon didn't. I mean, there's teaser ads I saw, but I didn't see that they actually released anything.
No, all this is rumor. So everything I'm going to talk about here tonight is rumor that could have changed before, right before the show or right after the show. Yeah, who knows? It could all be changing. But the rumor right now is that there's 2 mirrorless cameras coming from Nikon. One is rumored to be 45 to 48 megapixel. One is rumored to be in the 24 megapixel range. They are going to make the announcement around August 23rd. And which one comes first, I don't know. One of the two of them is going to come first. Probably, they don't think both of them will come. It's going to have a new mount. I think I said in the previous show, hopefully it has the same mount. I should have thought through the process. It can't have the same mount. It's going to be different.
No,
it's going to be
because it's the different plane that it's
right. So it's got to be a different mount. But there's supposed to be an adapter, so you can use your current lenses. The mount is going to be bigger. The hole is going to be bigger, which should allow for even faster sub f1.0 glass. So not that they're announcing that right off the bat. I think they're going to announce 3 lenses, 24 to 70, a 35, and a 50. And the 24 to 70 is rumored to be an f4. 35 and 50 are supposed to be f1.4s.
I was going to say they better be.
Yeah, and it's full frame. I don't know if I mentioned that. It's supposed to be full frame. All this, of course, is just rumors. And what else?
What about a price?
Image stabilization built into the sensor.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So they got smart. Well, yeah, if you're going to have all new lenses, it makes sense to do it then.
And Jan is saying Tony and Chelsea Northrop, she says reached 1 million. She says 10,000 subscribers. I think it's 1 million subscribers. He had a video he did on it, but there's Nikon rumors is where I'm getting all this. They let's see what else. Battery life's gonna be worse because it's pushing more camera, the more displays, of course. Mm-hmm. Better video autofocus than what we have now. Similar in body size to the Sony A7, but with maybe a deeper hand grip. Memory cards of the XQD variety, which is good. That's what I got. And CF Express.
What's CF Express?
I think CF Express is supposed to be like the next generation of XQD. I think they may be. I may be wrong, but I think they are compatible with the where you put it in.
Compact flash?
No, not compact flash. Compact CF Express. That's different than the compact flash.
Okay.
I think the slot is compatible between the two.
Okay.
Because I was, I mentioned before that it looked like the STD cards were going out of, it's hard to find some of them. Because only Sony was making them. But what I had read somewhere else, okay, you got the Nikon D500, you got the Nikon D850. They both use those things. What are we going to do if they don't make these cards anymore? And I had read that the Compact Flash Express will work in that slot. But this one is supposed to have both of those. 9 frames per second. I mentioned 5-axis body stabilization. And what else? That's it. But August 23rd, so a little bit less than, or about a month from now, is when we will, rumored to get that. They have released, I think the Nikon released a little teaser video of it that people have torn apart looking at it. And it's a very dark video, so you got to really overexpose it to see what's going on in there. But every day, if you go over to Nikon rumors, they got more and more going on there. Let's see. I'll pull this up here. That's from their little teaser thing. Do you have anything else here? Oh, this is all the information coming about it. But let's go back to that. I'll play a little video as we talk. No sound, though. This is Nikon's little video as we talk about it. But, so you may be asking, Tim, you may ask me, so Mike, are you going to go out and buy this thing?
I don't think you will.
Not at first, no, I won't. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait and see.
See, now this is the fine line of waiting, I think. Because, and I think about it for myself, if I was going to switch, I would probably sell my lenses. Now, if you don't sell your lenses at the right time, the value is going to start dropping as the new system takes over. So you're going to lose the money that you would save, unless you're going to start using adapters for everything. And who wants to use adapters for everything? I think that's right. the painful part. So if you're going to do it, you almost want to go completely new.
Yeah.
For me, you're talking about spending $4,000-$5,000, and
the reality is even if they put out both at the same time, or if they put out one and then 6 months later put out the other, or whatever that timing is, it doesn't matter. They're gonna sell a crap load of these things. They're gonna go out of stock almost immediately, and they're gonna be back ordered and everything. So I'm in no rush. My camera.
And maybe wait for the second generation.
Yeah, my camera's working fine. True, I do not like getting first generation stuff because that's where they, work everything out. So I want to wait and see. And if you wanted native lenses, like I mentioned, they don't have a whole lot. They're only coming out with 3 right at the beginning. So you're going to have to wait for more native lenses. Now I will say, when I went up to Alaska, that's where I was. Here's my shirt from Skagway. It says, "Hey, look, a menu," and then has the family stick figures on here, and the little license plate says, "I love bears," and then Skagway, Alaska. So I went to Alaska. I took my Think Tank Airport Express bag, which I like that bag. It's smaller. It fits an overhead bin really good. There's reviews on YouTube, so I'm not going to do a review, but I can show it later if we want to. I took the 70-200. I took my wide angle, which is a Tokina 12-24. I'm shooting with a crop sensor, so it's not going to be 12. It's going to be, 18. I took a 50 millimeter and a 35 millimeter. I ended up using almost never the 35 or the 50. But
but they're small enough to carry.
Yeah, they're small. And I took a 1.4 teleconverter because I knew when I was out at the whales, I was going to have some issues with the distance. And I did not want to bring a bigger lens than the 70-200. In that Think Tank, I could not have fit anything all that. So, the 70-200, when you put the 70-200 in there, you put that gear I just mentioned in there, plus the camera, plus I had a couple extra batteries, plus I had a few other little knickknacks that I put in there. It was quite heavy. And then when you're in a situation like Alaska, at the same time, you want as much zoom as you can get and as much wide angle as you can get. It's just, the landscape is just humongous and beauty everywhere. And yet anything else you want to zoom in on is so far away. So I constantly was going between those two lenses. And this is just, I never felt I had the right lens on for a lot of that stuff. And I always felt like it is starting to get heavy as I carried this stuff around for hours after hours. And when I was at port, I did end up using my phone a good bit for that stuff. So at some points I made the decision, all right, I'm leaving the 70-200 on. And if I want something wider, I'm just going to go with the phone. So that did okay. When I was coming up across something I really wanted to capture better, I did put on the wider lens. Let's see, what else? I bought a travel tripod.
That's a nice small one.
Nice. It is really small. So to give you a reference, here's my phone.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
So let's see. There you go.
Twice the length of your phone.
Yeah. So I will say, where did I use this? Really, the only place I used it was on our balcony.
Oh, wow.
That's the only place. So most places you're going to, you're not going to be able to set up a tripod. When I went out for the whale watching, I was out on the top deck with a bunch of other people in a rocking boat, and
that's vibrating a little bit.
A little bit, and everybody's up against the rail that's on that open deck because they want to get the best shot. You don't have room to set up a tripod, and even if
unless you're there 2 hours early.
No. This is a boat that goes out into the ocean.
Oh, okay. So like a tender.
Yeah. So it was an excursion. So we went out.
Forget it.
On this with 40 other people, and so this thing, the legs the legs come out and everything. This top part goes up and all that. So this was a nice little travel tripod. But when you're on the cruise ship, which is the only place I use it, and the cruise ship is moving, or even if it's not, it's in the water, it's still vibrating. So it's not going to be. It's not going to provide you a lot of stability. It's better than nothing. It's better than hand holding, and but I need to make sure my shutter speed was high enough to counter that kind of stuff. That said, I only used it there. It was so lightweight, I didn't really care about it. I didn't bring it with me when I went out to port, and took my backpack, the airport essentials, Think Tank Airport Essentials. I didn't take it with me. There is a tripod holder on the side of it, but I knew there's not going to be a situation for me to use it. It's just too crowded, and most of the places where you'd want to go take photos, everybody's there wanting to take photos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even when we went to Mendenhall Glacier, all the spots you can get to, everybody's getting to. So it's just.
Did you take a helicopter tour of it?
I did not. That maybe next time. But my wife has some mobility issues right now. She's still recovering from a couple years ago when she had that surgery, and I did not want to go on those things, without her. This was our 25th anniversary trip, so I need to be with her.
Yes, you got to spend time with her.
And so, for those things, I said, we're not going to do it this time. So that said, okay, there were other opportunities to take photos. We went on the whale watching things. Let's see, I got some I can show you here, Tim. Where is it?
Saw it on Facebook.
Yeah, you saw something on Facebook. Yeah, I'll show this. It's not whales, but this is a mountain as we went there. So, this is taken from the cruise ship. So there's a lot of beauty just straight from the cruise ship. You're just standing there taking it. And
Right.
You can get enough shutter speed to get something stable here. And this one is actually taken my 70-200. I think a lot of my landscapes from the cruise ship were with the 70-200. I would put on the image stabilization of VR and take these shots. The problem was, and why is this one in black and white, is because while you see the actual clouds there's also a lot of other fog happening. And you don't see that fog there because when I bring it into Lightroom, I bump the dehaze up, I bump the clarity up, I bump the contrast up. That counters a lot of that fog, but you lose a lot of it. That's not grass, that's trees, but that just doesn't come out right. So when you convert it to black and white, you lose the scale with this image. When you convert it to black and white,
it almost looks like veins going up the side of the mountain.
That is, I guess, where they've had landslides in the past.
Oh,
and there's no
vegetation
there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, that's one. Let's see. I'll put up a whale shot.
Oh, there you go.
So let's talk about the whale shots. And I did crop these like that because, what I was. I
like the panorama view of it.
Yeah. So you're sitting on here. There's a little video.
Oh, it's going pretty quick.
May not play very well. I don't know what's going on there.
It's playing for me. Yeah.
Can you hear it?
Yeah. No, I don't hear anything.
All right, we're going to go back to this. But you got the idea. You get the idea from that. That's not what it was doing when we got to the whales. It did slow down, but the water is.
I would hope so.
The water is rocking and is never calm, so it's moving around and everything. And when I first started shooting, it was overcast. You see that and you go, why do you convert this to black and white? That was a color photo. It's not black and white. There just was no.
You could see a little color on the whale.
Yeah, there wasn't that much color. The whales are mainly black and white. The water was this grayish color. So in this scene, there's just not that much color. But I know that, Greg and Drew and Jordan all will know this, and Jan will know this, but anybody who's a beginner who's doing this. So when I went to shoot, I think I was shooting probably wide open on 70-200. And I think I even put the teleconverter on at one point, and that gave me, it bumped me up to f4, but it gave me a little more reach. It's a 1.4 teleconverter. And with that, what was I doing? Oh, whatever the exposure came out to be, it was, let's say, 1/500, 500th of a second. Because I am moving, I am, rocking, no way that was going to be enough to stop my movement. Maybe sometimes theirs, but definitely not mine. So I went to 1/1000. That wasn't enough. Went to 1/2000. That wasn't enough. Because you can't hold this thing steady.
Right.
So I ended up at 1/4000th of a second. And at that, you think, okay, what did your ISO have to go to? But you have to make a decision, I can get.
Are you going to get the picture or not?
Yeah. Am I going to get a nice, clean ISO shot that is totally blurry because I couldn't stop my own action? Or am I going to get, a little bit of noise I can deal with later? So I went with a little bit of noise. But I think the ISO, even though it was cloudy, was only around 1600, maybe 2000. It wasn't that bad. I had some others here. Here we go. Yeah, with that one you can actually see the inside of the mouth.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun taking that. I every time the whales will come up, because you kind of got an idea when they're going to come up, but you don't quite know. I would just bang on a shutter. It's let that thing go. I think it's 9 frames a second that my D500 could do, and just let it go and shoot as much as I could, and then get ready for the next round coming up. One guy did ask me, "Why are you taking so many photos?" And I said, "Well, for one, my camera can.
Who knows if you get back?
My camera can. Two, I don't know exactly what I'm getting when I'm shooting these. And three, when you're bouncing around like that, or you're shooting with a low shutter speed that maybe is a little bit below what you can really handhold, taking a burst, somewhere in that burst, you may get a few that are in focus. May not be at the beginning, it may not be at the end, maybe in the middle, or it could be at the beginning or the end. So sometimes taking a burst in situations where you're struggling to get, steady, that can really help you out. I also got,
that's nice.
I think this one actually is I took this from the cruise ship while we're moving, but it's a 3-shot exposure that I edited in Aurora. I didn't do heavy editing in here, basically just brought it into Aurora, used their realistic filter and made a few slight changes, so I'm sure it can improve from here. But that's that. And then I have a
beautiful sky.
Yes, it was. That day it was beautiful. A few iceberg ones.
You see any calving?
I got one right here of some calving.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
Yeah. That was incredible. Let's see that. So it was a really, really fun trip. I can't wait to go back. And I learned a lot of lessons there. One is, I guess I'd take about the same gear, but it made me think, if I had a mirrorless camera, something that was lighter with smaller lenses, that probably would have been nice too, because I had my backpack on. I had, this, you're not going to be able to get it all.
Oh, that's big. Yeah.
Well, it looks big, but it's not as big as what you think. This easily fits an overhead bin. Let's see if I can get back.
Yeah, but carrying that on your back is a lot.
Yeah, so,
let's put it this way. How many other people had a backpack that big?
Well, I think just a normal backpack is going to be about this big.
You think?
Yeah, I don't think this is as big as it probably looks here.
Okay.
I don't know how to get it further back to show scale. But I would have that on. So this gets worse. I had that on. Then I had my Really Right Stuff strap on underneath that, and the camera hanging off to my side. And it gets even better because I was going between, using the camera on on this. By the way, when you're out on a boat or anywhere and you're taking video with your phone, unless you're doing it to Instagram or to Facebook Live or something similar, you don't take it like this.
Never. Oh my God.
You don't take it like this. This is why every news story at night, the captured a tornado or whatever else happened, it's
blurred on the left and the right.
Little sliver down the TV screen, and then behind it is that little sliver blown all up to make it look like maybe it's bigger. If you just did this, if you just did that, you would have a widescreen shot.
Would you watch your TV sideways? Would you mount your TV size? And that's what I tell people. And I've gotten some people to change, but then most people, it's a pet peeve of mine.
It's a pet peeve of mine.
And I read that. I think that was on Facebook also.
Yeah, I posted it on Facebook.
My God.
The worst thing I saw was, okay, let's say the whales at this point were 100 yards away from the ship, the boat that we were out, the whale watching boat we were out. They're 100 yards out there. Even with my 7200 with the teleconverter, I'm not getting much good there because it's just not, I'm not getting enough, filling the frame enough. But I see a lady out there in her jacket, because it's a little chilly, and her coffee. I just spilled water on myself. She didn't do that. I just did it. She's taking photos of it like this, as we're doing this. Yeah. Now, these things have image stabilization in them, but it's not going to be that good. And if my camera can't do it with a 7200 teleconverter, your phone, that's going to be just junk. So even turn it this way in that case wasn't going to help you out. But I mention that because I got this.
Okay.
This is a DJI Osmo.
Oh, that's
so
I know what that is.
You put your camera in here, you balance it, and then you hold it like this. It's not going to go up because I don't have to turn it on. and you walk around, you take video, and it really does a great job of stabilizing it.
Oh, wow.
It really did a good job of doing that. I put some up on YouTube. I think right now they're not public, but I may put some up there. It really did a good job. You can also, I bought a little tripod for it that screws into the bottom. I set it on there, and then you can do time lapse.
And it spins slowly. Oh no, time lapse. Okay.
Yeah, time lapse will, whatever time frame you want to. I took it on. I used a time lapse from the train ride, almost the whole train ride from Anchorage down to Seward. The one thing is there you go through a lot of trees right next to the thing, so I got a lot of editing to get all that out. But I also took one of when you got next to the glaciers, they were doing a slow spin, so each side of the ship can see it. So I did a time lapse of us coming around like that. So I did a time lapse. You can do landscapes with it, where you can put your phone on there, and it'll go through and take all the different sectors of it. So I think that using that is using the DJI app. But I have some video from this where I was on a train. The train is moving around, and I am shooting as it went by, and it just is rock solid steady. So, this is, I was shooting in 4K, 60 frames a second with my phone. That's really incredible. So I would say you're going to trip like that. Yeah, there's definitely a use case for your phone. And this was only like $120, $130.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. Yeah, that's not bad at all.
And it was really, really, really good to have. And Jordan's saying he has one of those too. He really loves that too.
Oh, that might be going on my wish list. Matter of fact, I'm going to add that to my wish list.
Yeah, I used it. I used it even before I went on my cruise where I injured my foot. I used it to time lapse me putting down sod in the backyard, which is super cool. A lot of our phones have, so I should say, a lot of our phones have time lapse capability. I'm sure iPhones have it. Androids did it. So this wasn't necessarily a use case for that thing, other than I used it to mount my phone to a tripod. So I mentioned I used that to do a time lapse of some of the stuff we were doing. Well, we're on the cruise ship. It wasn't tall enough, that little thing, to put it on anything that I would trust without it falling off. So that's where I used my tripod, set it up here on this, and then, this then was the base for it, and then I could trust it. But it holds it pretty good. I was hanging out the side of a train that was moving, holding that thing. I had a strap around my hand, but holding it and filming like that.
It's going on my wish list as we speak. Merry Christmas, Tim.
All right, so you just celebrated last month, June 21st or something like that. 7 years of JPEG to RAW, right?
Yes.
In 7 years of JPEG to RAW, I have not met a single host. You or Kathleen, who
lives a couple miles away.
Yeah, you live in New York, but you've been here twice. Both times you've been to Atlanta was the same day I was out of Atlanta or something like that. So it's not unusual that you and I haven't met. Kathleen lived at one point literally like a little bit less than a mile from me. She lives a little further now. I'm not exactly sure where, but I think it's more like 2-3 miles. We've never met. I've never met a single guest on the show. I've never met a single, listener or our viewer on the show until I went to Alaska. And I heard that, and this is going to be our featured photographer for tonight. I heard that this photographer that's been a guest on the show twice he and his family are traveling I think they're from Florida. So this is what's funny. They're from Florida. They're traveling the country in an RV, and maybe I think they may be on the second year. They've been doing it for a while. And the timing was that he was going to be in Juneau for a week. That sounds awesome, but I'm on a cruise ship. I don't have any control over when I'm where. I get there whenever the cruise ship gets there, and I got to leave whenever the cruise ship leaves. We were going to be in Juneau for one day, part of one day, and it turned out that was the same day he was arriving. So will I be there in time for when he comes? And we thought, yeah, that'll work out. It'll work out great. He was on a ferry that then started it taking longer to get off the ferry and all that kind of stuff. So we were talking on the phone and doing that, and I had, I got a hard cut. I got to get on the ship.
He get on the ship or it leaves.
The ship will not wait. So I got a hard cut. So it was starting to look like, man, this may not happen, because not only do they have to get off, does he have to get off the what do you call it, the ferry. You can't drive in the Juno. You can't take a ferry in today. Not only do you have to get off the ferry, you have to go to find the place where they're going to camp, set up camp, take their van and then drive into downtown Juneau, which is where I was, and meet up with me. It actually worked out. Ali, I'm going to not be able to say his last name, Elijah, Elhijj. I'm sure I struggled with this when we had him on the show. But he and his wife,
I'm sure you did too.
He and his wife made the journey, probably like 20, 30 minutes for them to drive to Juneau, made the downtown Juneau, made the trip to downtown Juneau and came and visited with me. We walked the docks there, right there at the docks. We didn't leave the docks, but we walked the docks. My first time meeting his wife, we've had him on a show twice, but my first time meeting his wife or talking to his wife, she was awesome. I wish I had more time to spend with them, but and she took this photo of us. We spent maybe 30, 40 minutes together walking up and down the thing. He's an incredible photographer. We've had him on here twice, like I said. It's been a long time, and I doubt we can have him on for a while because he's not doesn't have great bandwidth where he's at. Mm-hmm. But he's a fantastic photographer. Check out his website over at, why it's not working? There we go. Over at Ali, I'm going to spell it. ALIELHIJJ.com. Go over there and check that out. He is now, last I saw him, he was at the Arctic Circle. So they stayed at Juneau and they're making their way up. You can follow them on Facebook. I'll put a link out there. But they're doing that. He's also working with some project called virtual something. Is it? Maybe he has it here. Image of photographer. I should have found that out. I'll find it out and put it in the show notes. But he's working with somebody who, what they do is take virtual photo walks. There it is. They take, like, so let's say a wounded veteran who is bedbound or whatever, or maybe they're, in the latter part of their days, and they would like to see X thing one more time. I wish they could see this thing one more time. They can't really get out and go do this. So what they do is they get a photographer to go take these photos for this person, and then they bring them to him so he can see the photos of them. It's my understanding. But check out virtualphotowalks.com also. I wouldn't mind getting the guy who runs that on the show at some point. But it really was awesome to see and meet up with Ali. There's the photo. Tim? I think we lost Tim. He almost looks like he's wearing a cape in that shot. So I'm going to switch back to this shot and maybe over to mic full while we wait to hear from Tim. All right, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go into post-show and see if we can hook up with Tim in the post-show. So everybody out there in Facebook and in YouTube, thanks for coming out and watching live. Hang out for the post-show. And until next show, keep it raw. Good night, everybody.